The 2025 Anaconda bar shooting. A small town nightmare. In the early morning of August 1, 2025, the quiet Montana mining town of Anaconda was shaken awake by a violent act that would haunt its community and raise questions about rage, motive, and missed warning signs. This is the story of the Anaconda bar shooting, a chilling incident that turned an ordinary day into tragedy. Anaconda, Montana, a town known for its close-knit community and quiet streets. On this summer morning, the Owl Bars, a local favorite where neighbors met for coffee, breakfast, or a friendly chat, became the site of unthinkable violence. It was 10:30 a.m., a time when the bar was open and patrons were beginning to fill the seats. Among them were familiar faces, locals who came to relax, to talk, to start their day like any other. But that calm would not last. According to police reports, 45-year-old Michael Paul Brown, who lived next door to the Owl Bar, tried to set the bar on fire earlier that morning. When that attempt failed, investigators say Brown armed himself and opened fire inside the bar, targeting the people he apparently knew. In the span of moments, the morning routine transformed into horror. By the time the shots stopped, 4 people lay dead, their lives taken in a place where they should have been safe. The victims were later identified as Nancy Loretta Kelly, 64, the bartender who served countless regulars; Daniel Edwin Ballies, 59, David Allen Leach, 70, Tony Wayne Palms, 74. These were not strangers. They were neighbors, friends, faces familiar in the small Montana town where everyone knows your name. Immediately after the shooting, Brown fled the scene. A multi-agency fugitive task force launched a manhunt that lasted 7 days. Local law enforcement, state police, and federal agents worked around the clock, tracing leads and interviewing anyone who might shed light on Brown's whereabouts. Authorities finally apprehended Brown without incident, ending the tense search that had gripped the community. Once in custody, he was charged with 4 counts of deliberate homicide, arson, theft, and evading law enforcement. But as the legal proceedings began, more questions emerged than answers. Why did Brown target people he reportedly knew? What drove a neighbor, someone who lived beside the bar, presumably part of the community, to commit such a violent act? The Owl Bar's owner later commented that Brown knew all 4 of the victims personally, deepening the mystery around his motive. In small towns like Anaconda, where morning greetings at the diner are part of life and neighbors borrow sugar from each other, an act like this pierces to the core of what people believe about community safety. It challenges the assumption that mass violence only happens in big cities, reminding everyone that no place is immune. Still, in the months that followed, residents continued to grapple with shock and grief. Vigils were held. Stories of the victims, their generosity, humor, and quiet presence in the community were shared again and again. The empty chairs at the Owl Bar became symbols of lives abruptly taken. In the courtroom, Brown's defense and the details of his motive remain part of ongoing legal proceedings. For the families of Nancy Kelly, Daniel Ballies, David Leach, and Tony Palms, there is no simple closure, just the slow and painful process of grieving while seeking answers that may never fully come. After the gunfire, when the gunfire stopped inside the Owl Bar, the damage was already done but for the town of Anaconda. The nightmare was only beginning. News of the shooting spread fast. In a town of just a few thousand people, sirens echoed louder than usual. Streets were locked down. Schools went into precautionary measures. Residents were told to stay inside as police searched for the man responsible. What made the fear worse was this simple fact: the shooter was still out there. For 7 days, Anaconda lived in a state of quiet panic. Law enforcement agencies from across Montana joined the manhunt. Roadblocks were set up. Helicopters scanned wooded areas. Tips poured in from nearby towns as people questioned every unfamiliar face. Investigators quickly confirmed that the suspect, Michael Paul Browns, had fled on foot after the shooting. His vehicle had been stolen, then abandoned. From there, his trail grew cold. As days passed, the tension only increased. People who had known Brown began speaking out. Neighbors described him as withdrawn, sometimes angry, but not someone they believed capable of mass murder. Others said he had been struggling for a long time emotionally, financially, and socially. Still, nothing explained what happened inside that bar. Why those victims? Why that moment? Authorities revealed that Brown had attempted to set the bar on fire earlier that same morning, a detail that shifted the case from a spontaneous act of violence to something more deliberate. When the fire failed, prosecutors believe Brown returned with a gun, escalating his actions in a terrifying way. The victims weren't random. They were people he knew. That fact haunted the community. As the manhunt continued, families of the victims gathered for vigils. Candles lined the sidewalks. Photos were held close. Stories were shared about laughter at the bar, about friendships built over decades, about how a normal morning had ended in tragedy. The Owl Bar remained closed. Its dark windows became a painful reminder of what had happened inside. On the seventh day, authorities finally located Brown. His arrest came quietly, no shootout, no final confrontation. After a week of fear, it ended not with chaos, but with silence. Brown was taken into custody and charged with 4 counts of deliberate homicide, along with arson and evading law enforcement. Prosecutors described the case as one of the most disturbing crimes the town had ever seen. But even with an arrest, the biggest questions remained unanswered. Investigators began piecing together Brown's mental state leading up to the shooting. Reports suggested growing isolation, anger toward people he believed had wronged him, and a deep sense of resentment. Whether mental illness played a role remains part of ongoing legal discussions. The victims' families faced a different reality. There would be court dates, testimony, graphic details, a long legal road with no guarantee of emotional closure. For the town of Anaconda, trust had been shaken. People who once felt safe leaving doors unlocked now thought twice. Regulars who had spent years sitting at the same bar stools struggled with survivor-esque guilt, asking themselves why they weren't there that morning, or why they were. Community leaders spoke about healing, but acknowledged that healing would take time. The Owl Bar eventually reopened, but it would never feel the same. The empty stools stood as quiet memorials. Conversations inside were softer. Laughter, when it came, carried weight. This case forces an uncomfortable truth into the spotlight. Violence doesn't always come from strangers. Sometimes it comes from people known, overlooked, dismissed as just struggling. And sometimes, warning signs are only clear after it's too late. As the legal process continues, the Anaconda Bar shooting remains a painful chapter in the town's history, a reminder that even the smallest communities are not immune to tragedy. 4 lives were lost. An entire town was changed. And the echoes of that morning will be felt for years to come.